Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Celtic Down Under Weekend Review. My name is Anthony Maguire. I'm joined this week by Paul Massey and Richard Tobin as we look at St Johnstone 0, Celtic 6. Quite a entertaining game when I finally got a chance to watch it, but more on that in a minute. Richard, I believe you've been on your holidays. I've been missing you for the last couple of weeks. How have you been?
Bless.
What have you been up to?
Great. We were in Tasmania. I've never been. And it's got topography and lots of things that exiled Glaswegians would really like weather, precipitation, rain, some hills. It was great. I loved it. Absolutely brilliant. It's really, really interesting place. So I'll talk to you more about that later on. But yeah, thank you very much. It's nice to see you all again.
And Paul, how was your weekend? Grand final weekend? Were you any footy involved?
Grand final weekend indeed, which is AFL's end of season finale. I did actually watch it, not because I've got an overly excited passion for Australian rules football, but because the missus was out on a bit of an all-dayer with the girls, so I was having a chilled one, and I thought, we'll try and get into Aussie culture, and we'll watch the game. And then promptly used it as an excuse to wind up mates that enjoy that game more seriously than I do, because I just started messaging people going, "Is it normal that these games are over at halftime?" It was very weird, yeah. So they've got the playoff system here. So fifth place in the table, Brisbane Lions eventually made it through a couple of playoff rounds to play top of the table, Sydney Swans. You'd have thought Swans would be a heavy favourite. They got absolutely humped, didn't they? 120 to 60. It was pretty much done at half time. So yeah, not really the nail biter spectacle you would hope for. But yeah, I did partake of that before the real football got involved much later on that same day. So Saturday, Sunday morning, quarter to one Sunday morning. I feel like I might be partly responsible for your messing up of the game, because I was all over the shop in the run up to this week. I thought it was Sunday. I thought the clocks had already changed in the UK this weekend. Just generally, I had a bit of a shambles. So I will hold my hands up to some poor comms. But I did actually put all of that right on the group chat if you had reviewed it in thorough detail, which you clearly did not. So it only became... they got the time zone thing right sooner, but it only became known to me, I think, on Saturday that the game was that night and not the next night. So my general indignation about the fact there was only 48 hours between League and Champions League became a bit of a moot point when that realised that was no longer the case. But yeah, good weekend, pretty chilled. Enjoyed a few beers with a mate on Friday night, celebrating a little bit of a tap takeover with one of the up-and-comers of Big Dumb Silly Beers in Perth. So that was good fun. Nothing below an 8%er on that list. So small portions were had to see out the 8 beers on the list. So that was good fun. And then, other than that, relatively tame for the rest of the weekend, but enjoyed the match.
Monty's also on comms tonight, so if you hear any meowing, you know who it is. Yes, Paul, I totally stuffed it up, lads. I thought the game was Sunday night into Monday morning, hence last week why I was whinging and moaning about the timeline so much, the time in the game. So yeah, I was 24 hours out because I woke up to my phone having about 36 messages in the group chat, and as soon as I saw that, I went, the game was this morning, not... so I stuffed up. So I have watched the game since. Thank you, Paul, for allowing me to use your login. So I've caught up. Not Paul's fault, my fault. It's literally like it's become my new fear, is that when you book airfares and any takeoff time that's just after midnight, it's like, is that day or is it that day? And I'm always like double checking it and really being very, very attention to it, and I just didn't.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever got that one wrong?
No, I've never done it, but it's just one of these fears that I've got. Yeah, so.
I did it once, and I'll never do it again. So me and the missus quite a few years ago. We're probably going back. It's got to be probably 7 or 8 years ago, because it's way early on in our relationship, and it was a couple of houses ago at least. We're I'm a big mooser, so we were going to see Noel Gallagher in Sydney. And the flight time was something like I thought it was 5 to midnight, but as it turned out, it was 5 past midnight, and so I was there a day late.
Ooh.
So yeah,
Wait,
prompt. So I was in a shared apartment at the time, and there was people around that night, and so we left to go to the airport about, I don't know, 10 p.m. for the midnight flight. And by the time we came back from the airport, most of them were still there. At which point, I was furiously online to find an alternative flight as early as possible the next day, because the gig was that night. So the following night. So I was about $700 out of pocket for 2 flights, because obviously I had to pay for hers as well as mine. Even early in the relationship, I'd cocked that one up, so she wasn't paying for 2 flights, so I paid for her flight and my second flight.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so we got there in the end, and it was a cracking gig at the Horden Pavilion in Sydney. And I actually got a couple with a few mates from Scotland as well after it. So yeah, it was a good night. But yeah, I'll never make that mistake again. 1, because it cost me a few bob, and 2, because I was ribbed relentlessly from all and sundry.
Yeah, walk of shame. Yeah,
absolutely. So
yes, I need to use a little bit more discretion when it comes to looking at kickoff times. But anyway, we made up for it. So 6-0. Obviously, quite a changed lineup from when we played Falkirk the week before, back to a more regular starting 11. Richard, the main change there was an omission of Rio Hatate for an informed Paulo Di Bernardo.
Yeah.
And then obviously CCV, again, sort of a bit of an injury cloud, precautionary resting, and that brought in Austin Trusty at the back, who I thought had quite a solid game. He looks quite athletic.
Completely agree. Yeah, I thought he played very. It was very solid. Had a bit of a feel of the Cameron Cutter-Vickers in moments, actually, just his distribution and just general poise on the ball. I know how much we often talk about Liam Scales. We know that we all know that Paul loves Liam Scales, but he's got two but nicely balanced in centre of defence. I thought he played really well. Yeah. But the surprise that I didn't think that I'm surprised that Hatate didn't start, actually, if I'm honest, but then it really kind of lends to that narrative now where we've got competition for places and we've got a really interesting thing going on in the midfield. We've got interesting things going on up front. It's like we've got a starter and a finisher. We can change the game around, and it's with everyone fit. This is a really, really decent team.
It is, and I think the fact that we were 4-0 up before Hatate comes on. I mean that's a luxury and a half that we might not have that all season, because like it only takes one or two injuries, and all of a sudden that changes that squad dynamic. But at the moment, it's a luxury. I mean, obviously we're heading into a reasonable set of fixtures now where we'll be playing pretty much every second week. 2 games a week. I mean, so you're going to need to rely on that squad rotation to a certain degree. I guess the question is, did Bernardo get the nod to rest Hatate for the midweek game against Dortmund, or is he actually strongly considering starting Bernardo along with Engels and McGregor against Dortmund? Because, I mean, Paul, we made that call a couple of weeks ago saying that Hatate would maybe miss out against Bratislava, but then he went with Hatate, and as it turned out, they were rubbish. Well, they were rubbish, but they weren't a great team, and we sort of tore them apart. I guess, what's your thoughts? What Brendan was thinking, just rotation, or do you think how do you think that plays into the weekend? Oh, sorry, the midweek game. Sorry.
Well, there's 2 schools. Yeah, you still got your times all over the place. There's 2 schools of thought on that, right? It's obviously the first school of thought is Hatate's been rested because he's first pick for the Champions League. He's probably that bit more creative in terms of his passing and willing to take risks and all of that, and maybe you need that in the Champions League. The other school of thought is he was a bit off it. Obviously he was one of the few starters of first teamers, you would say, that started against Falkirk, and he looked off it, and he got hooked, and Bernardo played really well again, and so warranted to start. And on that basis, does he keep the jersey? I've been on record multiple times over the last sort of few days to say, regardless of, even before yesterday's really strong performance, Saturday's really strong performance, I thought Bernardo's a better shout for the reasons we said before. Bit more disciplined, a bit more hard working in defence, and we'll probably need that more of a defensive footing. So yeah, if I was picking, not to say that Rodgers doesn't know what he's doing, but if I was picking, I think Bernardo suits this game, and I would start him. But that we could just as easily see it being rotation and keeping Hatate fresh and him starting. But my pick is that Bernardo deserves this shot.
I like Michael Ross's little cartoon there. That's very, very, very good. He says it has to be Bernardo. Pete McGee, he's saying I love Hatate, but Bernardo starts tomorrow for me. And then again, McLaughlin P is pretty ambivalent, but he says, "What's all this Hatate bashing about?" Yeah. So I think for me, Bernardo, like again, he played really well against Rangers, and you kind of felt that like he'd keep the jersey if you use that analogy, but Brendan sort of made it quite clear that he will rotate through those players, if he's got equal quality in those positions. And you have to say, you could make a case for any of those three out of the four to start your midfield in any game for Celtic. So I don't have an issue with it myself, but I do feel that Bernardo's he's in a bit of form early in the season. So I think you've got to run with that, or you've got to tap that. Well, you can, because he's still a young player. There's every likelihood he'll have a dip at some point, and then that's when you rotate through and you bring your next guy in. And obviously at the moment that's Hatate, but obviously Luke McCowan came off the bench and looked good. So there's a bit of depth there, and it's exciting.
It is, and I don't see it as Hatate bashing. I think it'd be hard pushed for anyone to say Hatate's in top form. We've seen smatterings of what he's capable of in the short, start to the season we've had so far. But of the four that you would say it's any three from four, as you point out, he's been the least consistent. I love Hatate. He does things that arguably nobody else in the squad can do in terms of his range of passing and his ability to look for a forward pass. Although Engels is starting to get there, and he's added that, and he was threaded a few really nice balls through, and that pass in the Falkirk game for Kuhn, which we kind of skimmed over because there was so much to talk about. But Hatate's a brilliant player, but for me, he's just been off it a little bit, and he isn't as hardworking defensively as Bernardo. And he probably gives the ball away a little bit more. And in a game against a team that are going to be superior to us, not giving the ball away cheaply is going to be key. And I think we use those balls over the top again on Saturday, and we'll see it again. We've seen it through the season. I'm sure we'll see that even on a more elongated basis with the game stretched and us counter-attacking. So whether you need Hatate's ability to unpick a defense, we might just be able to spring it with pace as they come on to us. So we'll see. But yeah, I think I absolutely love Hatate. And if he starts, if he has a game of when he's on form, it wouldn't be any drop down in quality. I just feel like Bernardo's put himself in a position with a number of good performances that in the type of game that it is where we're going to have to do more defensive work, I think he's a better fit.
And adding goals to his game as well. Richard, the one thing I do when I do obviously know the score or the result is I try not to know when the goals were scored and who scored the goals. So at least there's some semblance of excitement as I'm watching it, because I don't know when it's going to happen. I know it's obviously going to happen, but I must admit, I didn't have 30 minutes on my bingo card. I kind of thought we'd score maybe a wee bit earlier in the half. We were kind of battering them. The drawbridge, they tried to put the drawbridge up, but we were just battering away at it. I guess, obviously, first goal chalked off on the 25th minute. So that was
But a couple of chances before that, actually.
There was.
A couple of chances before that, yeah. I was going to say that, so a couple of decent chances. I mean, I think Kyogo quite early on. Kuhn had a bit of a sclaff quite early on before the goal that was disallowed. Kuhn, I thought, had a really good game, actually. But it's really nice. It's nice to be talking about back-to-back shellackings. But my ad was a wee bit unlucky. Was there some kind of collision in the build-up?
Yes.
I can't actually.
Austin Trusty did a Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Right.
It's one of those ones where, like, I
Yeah.
like to use the
I remember
term,
it now.
it was a coming together, because I think that's
Yeah.
what it was. I mean,
Yeah.
Trusty didn't see him there. The St Johnstone player knew he was there, so he sort of
Yeah.
come across him. I know it's high contact, but I'm a bit thinking about it.
John Kennedy was pretty exercised about it. I don't think he was too happy about it at all, that it was being displayed. But then we'd done half an hour of not scoring, so yeah.
It's a shocker of a decision. It's an absolute shocker of a decision. Now, I don't think Carey sees him coming either, like, because he doesn't look, but he steps into the space that Trusty's coming into, and he gets caught. My big thing, and again, it's one of the nights would be good if Sean was here, because he was very quick to say that's a terrible decision, and obviously he's the resident ref on the show. For me, the weird thing here is we've heard that VAR this season is going to be less involved. It's only going to be there to correct like shocking decisions that were missed. The ref's looking right at that. He's got a good spot across the box. He decides there's nothing in it other than there's a coming together. Then VAR gets, and the other thing here is Graham Carey being on his feet doesn't stop that goal either. So it's not like the coming together knocked a player out of his stride that was otherwise going to be able to defend. So it's purely just for the contact. And so VAR's obviously decided it's deliberate, you would think. If it's deliberate, then because if it's not deliberate, it's an accidental collision and it's actually not coming together, so there's no foul. So it can only be deemed to be a foul, presumably, if he thinks they've made the contact on purpose. If he does think he's made the contact on purpose, it's basically a forearm smash in the head. That's a red card.
Red cards.
So never mind you've chopped off a goal. Trusty walks away from that without even a yellow. So I think VAR's got itself involved in something. Well, if you're extremely cynical, you make your reasons why it's got involved. But for me, it hasn't got any business being involved in that. Maybe last season when they were getting involved in everything and re-refereeing games, you'd say, well, that's not a surprise. But in this new version of how they're applying VAR, I don't think so. I think it's a bit of a nonsense.
Yeah, look, I agree, Paul. I think had he been more active in the build-up of the play, or had an opportunity to maybe actually stop the goal, then all right, maybe you can make a case for it. But the fact that like it was not really any interference there, I really don't see how how it was overruled, because it's not a clear and obvious error, is it?
Yes, no. Well, like, unless you believe it's a deliberate forearm smash in the face, in which case send them off. But obviously that's not what they thought, because they just did enough to stop the goal, not enough for anything more punitive, which doesn't really make any sense. I just think what I'm really interested in is this VAR review show that Column's doing. This has got to be in it, like this, because there's not as many controversial VAR things anymore, because they're getting involved less often. So if this one isn't one of the ones that he picks up on in the next episode, he's clearly a carpet sweeper, because absolutely this is one that doesn't really make sense, and I'd expect him to come out based on what he's done in the previous VAR review shows and tell us why that was the case. But be interesting.
It was a shame, because it was a wonderful finish by Maeda, and I'm sure if he gave him another 10 of those, he'd maybe only bury probably another one of them. But it was a fantastic strike, and it's a shame. But obviously, he gets his just desserts later on in the game. We didn't have to wait too long after that to actually open our account. So there was a yellow card. Matt Smith, he clattered AJ or Kuhn. No, I think it was AJ. I think it was. So he picked up the first yellow card of the game, which I'm surprised it took that long, because Johnson were. They weren't holding back. A bit of a remnant of Craig Levine's tactics, probably. So we sort of get the goal. And Paul, you want to talk us through our opening of the?
Well, yeah, like the keepers just sort of horsed it long. I think it's Scales that wins the header. It goes back up sort of towards at the end of our line. Kyogo tries to knock it through. It hits the defender. It bounces back, and Kuhn is able to knock a brilliant header in behind the defender. And obviously, Kyogo's already on his bike, and he's in behind. And it's one of these chances that we've been creating quite a lot for Kyogo lately, and he hasn't just quite been able to take them. And it wasn't an easy one. It's sort of bobbling about. He's got a thigh on it, and it's bouncing, but he manages to get a great contact on it and smashes it right in the corner. I think that's his first. I think I'm right in saying that's his first away goal since October last year. So nearly 12 months since he scored away from home, which is kind of incredible stat.
Didn't realize
but
that.
yeah, he's scored all his goals at home. So yeah, kind of mad. But great to see the wee man get one away nice and early in the game, and you could see he was brimming with confidence. Like, I don't think he's been, like, a lot of people saying, "Oh, he's been off form," blah blah blah. I think he's been great. He's been getting into the right positions. He just hasn't been taking every chance. But if you look at his record, he regularly misses chances before he scores chances, or as well as scoring chances, he's missing chances.
Absolutely.
So he is a striker that needs multiple chances to get a few away. But he was clinical, great finish, and yeah, first of two for him within sort of, I don't know, 10 minutes or so.
He looks like he's really enjoying himself. I mean, he's got a smile on his dial again. And when he had his head down a wee bit, sort of towards this kind of middle third of last season, and he was, like you say, he is always someone who needs a few chances. But the team weren't clicking; they were playing a half of football or whatever. But he's absolutely got his smile back, and I think. Listen, we've been scoring a lot of goals, and we've been scoring a lot of goals from all over the park. And I think that the fact that he's actually clicking again means that he feels that energy. He's got it back with him. Absolutely. I think it was good to watch again. Lots of movement, as you said.
Well, I mean, there was that aspect to it. The other aspect is Adam, he just scoring goals as well. So, I mean, there's pressure on his position as well. Like, he's got a recognised striker up against him. So he has to be scoring. He has to take his chances. And I think it was good for him to score one of those open one-on-one type goals, because they're the ones that I feel he has been missing those sorts of chances this season.
It was
so
a great
good for him to
finish.
score one like that. Yeah, it was great. I mean, no doubt that was in the back of the net. It was a great finish. But like, probably the ones he slaffed at early on in the half were more those ones where it's those quick reaction ones inside the 6-yard box. And, so they're a wee bit more like, it just, a bit more can go wrong. And obviously players and bodies and legs and limbs get in the way. But I think, like, to score one, there's an open play and just really sort of not settle. There's no need to settle the nerves, because St Johnstone offered absolutely nothing except for that one ball over the top on the 6th minute. Nicky Clark got behind Liam Stales. Again, probably positionally a little bit sus, but Trusty, did really well to slide back in and put a really good, strong challenge. So not really much threat from St Johnstone, and they were really, like I said, just parking the bus, literally doing a 5-5. If Craig Levine was there.
It's a good call on keep the type of chances Kyogo has been missing, because there was that one in the derby when we were already sort of comfortable, and he was clean through, and you thought he's got to put this one away, and he put it past the post. And so yeah, he could have probably had a hat trick that day. So yeah, those one-on-ones, historically you've expected him to tuck those away, but he has missed a few. So yeah, really good, especially ahead of what's going to be a massive week for him to get a couple of goals back in.
And then our second goal was probably my pick of the goal of the half. And that was it was a great move, because we must have strung about 5 or 6 passes together at the back.
Yeah,
broke their
6
press.
passes.
Ball goes out to AJ. AJ plays it long to Kuhn, back in, and then it was Kyogo with a little cushion down for Bernardo, who's just absolutely rifled it, curled it in. Just great finish, but just a really nice goal to cap off what was a really good bit of team performance in terms of the passing and the moving. And yeah, for me, definitely goal of the half, if not the goal of the game. But I think there'll probably be a strong contender in the second half for goal of the game. But we'll come to that in a little bit. But it was just, it was well worked. And like I said, St Johnstone actually trying to be a little bit more aggressive with the press. And we just absolutely made them pay for it, basically. And as I said before, Bernardo adding goals to his game. He's not afraid to shoot, and got the athleticism to get in the right position and pull the trigger. And like I say, give the keeper absolutely no chance with that one. any takers on anyone else wants to sort of touch on that before we move on?
You're right. It's great, but I just like that he sort of used the defender as a kind of bend it round, and it sort of probably started outside the post and finished back in. But yeah, it's a class finish, and it like the Kuhn's had a lot of assists, but he's also getting heavily involved in those, the one prior to the assist, and it's another example. He fizzes it into Kyogo, and it's a really great touch. Like he just one touch pretty much cushions it, takes all the pace off it, lays it right back into Bernardo, one touch out of his feet, and it's a great finish. So yeah, at that point you think, well, that's at least we deserve to be 2-0 up just before halftime, and you'd have probably taken that going in, but we weren't finished yet.
Yeah, the man is a really nice header. Yep.
Yeah, Kyogo and Greg Taylor had other ideas. Go, Richard, go.
No, you're freezing. It's really funny. You're freezing in my screen, so I can't actually hear what's going on for a moment. So forgive me. No. Greg Taylor, who I was saying. Anyone who doesn't know, and I didn't know that Greg Taylor subbed off because I thought there might have been a wee bit of Champions League thinking around the Valle substitution, but no, Greg Taylor thought had a really good game. Super cross, brilliant finish from the wee man. I haven't seen him do one like that with his head actually for a while either. So yeah, super goal, and no more than we deserve. Bit of a VAR check going on there. I think it was a query offside on Kyogo, but yeah, stood, and it was 3-0.
Sure did. It sure did. I was right.
They took a while on it as well.
Yeah.
I think in some of the commentary, like not in the, I was watching Celtic TV, so the commentary wasn't expecting it to be chopped off. But I think on whoever the main carrier was, I don't know if it's Premier Sports or TNT or
it was Premier Sports.
But whoever was, I think it might be Mikey. Was it Michael Stewart that was on co-coms? He was expecting it to get chopped off, and I was like, well, just use your eyes. Like the defender's foot looked like it was ahead of Kyogo's shoulder. And yeah, as it turned out, that was the case.
Yeah. Mikey Stewart just doing a bit of wishful thinking there. I don't know. Sometimes he's so right, and sometimes he's just so wrong. Like he's just very, very inconsistent. Guys are saying smash the light troops yet. So guys, if you can please like this episode, it'll be in YouTube. It does help other like-minded Celts see our show. Yeah, we want more people to get involved and have a chat and get amongst it. So thank you very much for joining us live. Halftime, wee bit of a precautionary removal of Greg Taylor to bring in Alex Valle. I thought it was just maybe more of a resting thing, but then obviously I'd heard afterwards that, yeah, he actually felt a bit of a niggle. So obviously precautionary as we're off to Germany this week. I said last week with Valle that I did want to see him perform in a team when he's playing with 10 other starters rather than the makeshift team that was out against Falkirk last week. And I think we saw quite a substantial difference, Richard. Very technical young player, and definitely got a lot to like about him. What do you think for your first time being on when he's played?
Yeah, I thought his passing was excellent. I think it's very crisp, very good awareness of the space. As we'll touch on later on, he got involved in the attack for one of the goals. But competitor for pick of the goals for the weekend. Good awareness, linked up very well, defended when he had to defend. Yeah, just kind of what you'd expect from a Barcelona player, right? So no, I think we've done well, and I think he slotted in beautifully. And given the defense as well, we were missing CCV, who I think we all acknowledge has been a kind of super anchor and calming influence. That he seemed to slot into that what was a relatively unfamiliar defense and played very, very well.
We might have lost Anthony. Is he frozen a bit? Oh no, he's back.
Yeah.
Might be back. Are you back?
I'm trying to fix my internet. Sorry, is that better or worse?
We'll judge it as we go. It seems okay at the moment.
It's the specky guys here, Anthony. You and I both know that sounds a bit like the opticians, But no, yeah.
I realized halfway through I was on Wi-Fi when I should have been on Ethernet, so I've just changed it over. So hopefully that should smooth me out a bit. So apologies if I've been a bit blurry or stand there with a very lifeless expression on my face for 10 seconds because it's just the internet. So again, goals didn't exactly start flowing straight away from memory. I literally watched this about not that long ago, but it took us to the
9 minutes. 9 minutes in, not too bad.
9 minutes. Okay, I'm being a bit impatient. So, Paul, talk us through that one.
Yeah, so we've been mixing up the. Engels has showed some really great delivery into the box, and obviously we scored some, we scored a cracking header. Skills got that one the other day, but we've still been persistent with these short corners, which a lot of time frustrate me because they don't necessarily lead to anything that you wouldn't already get in open play. But actually, set piece corners don't deliver goals that often anyway. So there's method in the madness, but it's a particularly good method when the defense shuts off to a ploy that has worked quite a few times already this season. I don't know what Andy Kirk was up to in terms of his prep for this one, because it's not like Callum McGregor hasn't been smacking him in from outside the box regularly already this season.
Yeah,
and he's given freedom. He's given the freedom of McDermott Park, St Dermot Park, and St Bernard Park. He's given the freedom of McDermott Park. Nobody picks him up.
Freedom of Perth.
The other Perth. Nobody picks him up. He's completely free. Engels just turns a quick one around the corner to Kuhn, and Kuhn just passes it straight in his right to him. Pretty simple pass, but it's nice and crisp. He just gets one touch out of his feet, and by the time he hits it, the defender is getting back to him, but he's left himself way too much to do, and it's just a great, accurate, low drilled shot. And I've seen some criticism of the keeper in terms of his positioning, but you can't really blame him for, he's not going to be expected to narrow that angle as quickly because he's not expecting that to come in either. And there's a lot of defenders in front of him. So another great strike from Cal. He's just on fire this morning, this start of the season. So, but really poor defending. And at that point, 4-0. If it wasn't already done and dusted at 3, which it probably was, it's certainly done and dusted at that point. And you can almost see the life sort of ebb out of St Johnstone at that point. Over an hour to go, 4-0. We've already dominated the game and possession, and they know they've got another 30-40 minutes of it. It's to be honest, at that point we should have probably put them to the sword even more than another 2 at that point. But there's a big game on Tuesday, so maybe take the foot off the gas a little,
but there's that. But then also you make changes, and sometimes that takes a little bit of time for that to gel in again. And we got, we had the luxury of obviously making some changes, because obviously depth on the bench, and game was obviously well and truly over. So where are we? So in the 66th minute, we brought on Rio Matati, Adam Ida, and James Forrest, replacing Engels for Kyogo and Kuhn. And then on the 75th minute, we managed to take Cal Mack off for Luke McCowan, so he got a wee rest as well, which doesn't happen all that often, although maybe it should happen a little bit more frequently now that we've got a stronger midfield. But anyway, all good. Richard Maeda gets his goal in the end.
Do you know, that's the one that's the one I remember least about, actually. Daizen Maeda, even though it was I always like seeing Daizen Maeda score. I think he's got what a haircut he's got this weather. He's gone full bowl, but blonde bowl at that. But again, great cross, super finish. Wonderful. Who was it? It was not Kuhn that crossed it, or was Kuhn substituted? Bernardo.
No, Bernardo. AJ gets the ball out on the right and then fizzes it into Bernardo, and he takes it and looks up, and it's just like another cracking delivery. Very similar to Taylor's to Kyogo. But from the other side. But the end result's the same. Plants the header. Maeda gets himself involved in headers around the box. He seems to be doing that more often than like sometimes he's the first man on the corner for a flick on.
I just think his energy
up to score headers in the box as well.
His energy's fabulous. He's everywhere. I mean, he was chasing stuff down. Even towards the end of the game, he was chasing stuff down and trying to restart attacks. I agree. We're so lucky at the moment. It's great fun to watch because he's the cat again. It's really funny. It's great fun to watch, and he and Kyogo have been real inspirations and have kind of carried it through for all the chances that they miss. Some of the chances that they take have been spectacular. That was a comfortable finish, but he's a quality player. I did think that there was a kind of period there where I thought that Maeda had actually gone quite quiet in the game, but actually when I watched it back, it was really industry. You know, we were talking about all the other things that were going on. Kuhn had a very crisp game, played really quick, accurate passing, but Maeda was doing an awful lot of work off the ball. So that always. Do you think he'll be on the team sheet on Tuesday night?
Maeda, sorry, one of the first. Yeah, he'll be one of the first names on the team sheet on Wednesday night or Tuesday night. Tomorrow night.
He's probably the one position that's probably a little bit irreplaceable at the moment, because Palmer didn't exactly set the heather alight last weekend, and you're probably thinking Yang
dropped from the squad entirely this weekend.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, definitely Maeda's the one that you'd want to be looking after and keeping fresh. And just to your point as well about getting on the end of that goal, and he does drift in because he is, he plays centre forward for Japan. So like he does get central with those deliveries and those balls. And I think Adam Ida was on by that point as well. So I think even if Maeda had missed it, I think Ida was pretty much lining up for it anyway, sort of thing. So like having a dual threat in the middle, St Johnstone probably at that point were just like tapping the canvas, just going, just want this to be over. Because apart from that little snapshot in the second half that forced a good save from Schmeichel, there was like nothing. Like there was no chances, no break up the park. Like the centre forward didn't hold the ball up once. They're just under the cosh constantly, and I'm amazed it was only 75% possession. I mean, it just felt like St Johnstone every time they got the ball, they just hoofed it as far as they could. And again, they're going to have a very, very long season. I know Hearts are struggling, but I tell you what, St Johnstone, they'd be a tough watch this season. Last goal, definitely, that definitely will make the highlight reels. Probably make the goal of the month for Celtic TV. But Alex Valle, I mean, it was just starts the move, involves Luke McCowan, flicks the ball across, and then Valle just manages to backheel it right into the path of Ida. Could have shot himself, but nah, I know what I'm doing here. And Ida probably won't score an easier goal this season, but the move was just, tell you what, if we do that in the Champions League, they'll just be like, that'll be box office. Like they'll just be, that will just be played around the world. But it was just an incredible goal. I mean, the vision, the movement, and again, that's what I was saying last week about Valle, like, put him in a team with all the players around him and let's see what he can do. And boy's got talent. I mean, he needs to bulk up and he'll get bigger. He's only 18, but like definitely a technician there. Take it away, boys.
Yeah, I think, look, I liked where his starting position. So his starting position was in that inverted left back, sort of high up the left attacking mid, basically.
Yeah.
He picks up the ball in space, turns his man, and then fizzes it across to Luke McCowan. And then instead of admiring his handiwork, he's off. And we've talked about this tactic of chipping the ball over the top or looking for that like cross from slightly deeper. McCowan's execution is excellent. And yeah, Valle's time just run to perfection. Obviously, the linesman thought he hadn't and decided that was to try and spoil the fun. But you got that one wrong as well. And yeah, just a vision to not just know that Uda's there, but then the execution as well. Class. And Ida, yeah, look, one touch to get out his feet, and then a nice little kind of side foot outside of the boot, kind of park toe poke into the corner. Just a really nice finish. And never mind goal of the month. I think you go a long way to see a better goal this season than that in terms of just how neat and tidy it was. It's up, it's up for me. It's up there with the Dembele goal at the same end of the ground. That goal had a bit of everything in it as well. I think every player on the pitch pretty much touched the ball. There's tons and tons of passes. I think is that the same one that had the Rabona cross as well from Lustig? And then the little layoff, and then it was like that was obviously much more of a team goal. This is just a piece of, a couple bits of brilliance and vision. Class, just class. And yeah, classic linesman ruining it by, cuts the celebration short, and then sure enough, he's well. In fact, there might have been two of them playing him on, but there's definitely one. He's timed his run to perfection. And yeah, I was pretty impressed with Vi, and I think, as you say, these guys like him and Trusty being thrown in 8 changes last week. It's not the time to judge him. And yes, the usual internet stuff goes off and social media stuff goes off and people judge knee-jerk reactions and all the rest of it. You've got to judge these guys when they've been bedded in for a bit. I agree. I thought Trusty looked pretty solid. It's obviously only St Johnstone that didn't really test him very much, but on the few occasions he was asked to do, he was more than capable of everything he did. I fear that he might have to start in Dortmund. I can't really see us risking CCV. What would be the point? It'd be daft to risk him with everything that's still to come. It's a game we're not expected to win, so I used the phrase "free hit" elsewhere, and I think it is. So I don't think he'd be rest. Trusty will play, is my expectation, and that will be a test. But we spent 6 million quid on him, so he needs to be up for the test, and he's obviously a couple of weeks, down the line with some game time under his belt.
And he found himself a wee bit further north ahead as well, just before the 6th goal. I mean, he had, if I remember, a volley, and he wasn't far away either, actually.
That would be incredible if that had gone in as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have been one for the highlight reel as well. Sort of just found himself up the pitch, and it sat up nicely. And I don't think it was too far away, a yard or so past the post. But I think it's one of those, like, would you rather gamble CCV and potentially make the injury worse and still get nothing out of this game potentially, or do you give him some rest and save him for the games later in the campaign where we probably got a better chance to win, and maybe he could be the difference in that? Or by that point, give him the full rest and recuperation. Hopefully, maybe Trusty's bedded in, and you don't need to risk him for a period. At some point, you bring him back in when he's ready.
I think CCV looks like he has been struggling. Like,
absolutely.
So why would you put him in against probably the best team you're going to play all tournament? Like, if he is carrying an injury, he's already found out. So why I'm with you, Paul? Why risk it? Like, Trusty, all right, plays to Johnson. All right, it's cats and dogs. It's not the same fucking sport, but he looks like an athlete. He looks like he's got the raw physical attributes to match it. He looked quick. He's tall, strong. Put him in. I mean, like you say, we spent 6 million. I mean, like, he's obviously not a mug. So let's just see what he does.
I think one of the criticisms of him, when the two criticisms I heard about him from Sheffield United fans, I said Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United fans, is sometimes a bit of a confidence player. Well, his tail should be up after that, and can get sort of, can sort of lose focus. Well, he's not going to have a chance to lose focus against Dortmund, right? If he's going to lose focus, it would be against a team like St Johnstone or arguably Falkirk, and you can make a case for that the other week. But I think, he's coming off the back of his first start, his first league start, and a good, strong performance. There's no point risking CCV if he's not perfect, and I can't see how he can be perfect given what the injury is, and he's already been playing with injections. And we've said it already, like, Scales has been our best centre back this season. And you wouldn't, even with Scales' progression, a fully fit and in form CCV is still going to, and should still be ahead of Liam Scales. So he's clearly not been completely 100%. And so, like you say, I don't see the point in risking him for a game like this. It doesn't make much sense.
Yes, I agree. Michael Ross saying, hail, the cats. PPG, we were purring on Saturday.
There's some hilarious stuff in here, and I've got to go back to this, Anthony, because all the kind
What's
of
it?
chat about
Yeah.
time zones. But I think it was Pete McGee earlier on talking about having a sundial in his balcony. That'll sort out all your kind of kickoff times, eh?
Yeah, well, I definitely, it wouldn't hurt at this point because, like, yeah, clearly I'm
Yeah.
all over the place. And then, no, it's this cataclysmic. Oh no, but it's catastrophic. Okay, enough of that. So obviously it ended up 6-0. The referee invoked the mercy rule, 2 minutes of additional time, which wasn't even played out because, yeah, game was done. We were bigger fish to fry during the week in Germany. Anything else that came out of the game? I mean, the refereeing I thought was pretty poor. Again, Don Robertson not letting not picking up on some pretty basic fouls. There's Warren Kuhn, he's clipping his heels, he was away. How's that not a free kick? Couple of hefty challenges. I thought maybe Tripodi's cards out a wee bit earlier, but I generally thought he was bang average. And then obviously the linesman getting it wrong for that last goal. And then VAR getting involved for chalking off the other goal. I don't think they had a great day at the office. And I suppose when you win 6-0, if you ever try to criticise officials, this is the opportunity to do it. Because obviously it didn't have any bearing on the game, but just I felt it was a bit rubbish.
At least the Celtic fans were consistent in giving the officials their fair share of the stick that invariably goes around if we feel that we've been hard done to. But it was a difficult one to watch at times. I think that I'm going to rewatch that first game, the disallowed goal, the first one, because I view it in a different light now, having listened to you talk about it, Paul. And what did you think of the refereeing?
Anthony summed it up. It was pretty average. For me, it's those free kicks that either don't get given and they should get given, and they break it up, or they don't reward you for what you should get. And it's the leaving the cards in the pocket for longer. It was the left back clattered AJ on the byline, and I've no idea. He gave the foul, but I've no idea how it wasn't a yellow. So just stuff like that, and then I didn't remember seeing this. I didn't notice as much of it this week, but we saw a lot of it against Falkirk, and we see it regularly down the season. Is the kind of barely a foul gets given as a foul, or the player falls over, grabs the ball, he's already decided it's a foul. The ref just gives it. Just those little non-fouls, breaking up play and breaking up rhythm. But yeah, obviously we negated the poor officiating, which that's kind of what we've always had to do. With Jock Stein that said you've always got to beat the other team and the officials, which there's probably a bit of gamesmanship in there. But the big man was probably one of the early proponents of the mental side of the game. But yes, usual story, isn't it? So good win though. And some really good performances. We will get into in a bit, I guess, when we pick one of the match, but there's plenty of contenders.
Monty does have ears that folded down, so that's why he's called a Scottish fold. So that's his breed of cat. So yes, his ears fold out the way. Anyway, we may as well do a wee sort of anatomy lesson while we're doing this, just like we're very broad church.
Community service.
Just don't talk about politics, apparently. Anyway, so already say so. Man of the match. Yes, we'll get to that in. We may as well do that now because time's getting on, and we can talk about a bit about Dortmund and what our recommendations and everything are, because we're doing pretty well for time. Richard, you haven't been on a few weeks. I'll give you first.
Thank you very much. I'm really enjoying watching Nicholas Kuhn this season. I thought his movement was very good. I thought his involvement in several of the moves around the goals was pivotal. I think his distribution's been very accurate, and I really enjoyed watching particularly his role in the second goal. So lots of good performances, as Paul alluded to, but I am going to go for Nicholas Kuhn.
Paul, you can go next.
Yeah, so 2 assists for Kuhn and involved in the Bernardo goal as well. So yeah, fair shout. I think I thought Callum McGregor had a really solid game again. He's keeping the game ticking over. Kyogo, 2 goals and an assist. I know Sean wouldn't give him man of the match for that necessarily, but definitely worth being in consideration. Lots like, there wasn't, again, not too many poor performances. Maeda, incredible work rate, got his goal, should have had another. He'd be well in the mix. But for me, another standout performance. We touched on him earlier on. He's got to start as far as I'm concerned on Tuesday. Paulo Bernardo, a goal and an assist, and generally everywhere. My man of the match.
Richard, I've given Kuhn man of the match the last 2 weeks, so I'm going to go with Bernardo this week because I thought he was.
I feel
excellent.
Minoritized, and
you're 2 weeks too late.
It is kind of splitting hairs, though, isn't it? Because I think, as I said earlier, it's nice to be talking about shellacking after shellacking. We've had a really nice run of some really solid performances, starting games really well, pressing really well, being very accurate, loads of energy. It's great fun to watch. You could pick. I mean, there was a queue in my head for man of the match, and I picked Kuhn because Paul always elaborates more elegantly than I do about what Kyogo actually got up to, what Bernardo actually got up to. But they were all great.
No, look, but again, it's strong performances all round. I mean, you could easily make a case for probably 4 or 5 Celtic players, no problem. Like any of the attacking players, everyone contributed. Kyogo's popped up with 2 goals. Maeda had a goal, had 1 chopped off. Everyone got involved. So I mean, you can, if anything, you maybe see Engels maybe didn't quite, and that's a pretty high bar because everyone else got on the score sheet and got involved, but like he just a wee bit unlucky and did a bit more of the sort of grunt work. But his deliveries were still good, like from his set pieces and things like that as well. So like I said, you could easily make a case very much for any of the front 6 players.
Yeah.
But Paulo Bernardo, and I think the other point just to mention is that's now has eclipsed that record for 6 clean sheets at the start of the season, or 7. Is it 7 now? 6, 7?
Okay.
6 league wins.
6 league wins. Yeah. So that was so Schmeichel's had to get involved for 1 save, but yeah, like I said, he's probably wondering what Scottish football is all about because he's not actually done like all that much in the league. Like he's really. He's had it pretty easy doing so far, but we've got Aberdeen coming up, so that'll be a stiff test. They seem to be off to a bit of a flyer, and somebody's saying, "Oh, it's the run of fixtures that they've had," but then James McFadden saying every game's a test, so they've done pretty well to be in the position they're in at the moment. So it'll be interesting when we do actually play them.
Yeah, they're consistent and they're putting a string of results together. It always builds momentum and it will give them confidence. And so it'll be the sternest test that we've had in the league this season, that's for sure.
And also just the fact that they sold Miovski at the start of the season. So, I mean, to do that with no Miovski, I think it's quite an achievement. So, good for the league. So all right, let's do quick predictions on Dortmund because we're out of time. So we're actually got 5 minutes up our cuff, which is unusual because normally we're running out of time and we're just we've actually done pretty well. We've been very efficient tonight, which is good. That's nice. Paul, how do you see it go?
I'm on record as saying elsewhere that if I go with my heart, I can somehow see us managing to get edge a 5-goal thriller, for example. Get the head employed and we lose by an odd goal or so. So let's split the difference and say somehow get out of there with a draw, possibly 2 each. I don't think it's beyond us. We'll have to be better than we've been on the road in the past, and we'll have to cut out the stupid stuff, red cards, shooting ourselves in the foot, basic mistakes, all of that sort of stuff. But it just feels like the squad is in a better position depth-wise, probably more physicality, bit more power, better energy. Hopefully shouldn't wilt in the last sort of 20 minutes or so like we've seen in other games. So yeah, I think there's a possibility of us coming away with something, but realistically, we could probably get edged out. But if we make it competitive, that'll be progress. Because let's be honest, when the draw was made, nobody expected us to get anything out of this. And in the few weeks since then, we've put some great performances together, albeit against mostly run-of-the-mill fodder. But yeah, let's see how we go. We go there with optimism and hope, and I think that's certainly better than we have done in recent years when we've been going to these type of places in the Champions League.
Pete McGee, 2 each. Michael Ross, 3 each. Spill the glove, 4-4.
Some horrible defending to go to
4-4. Blitz, no pun intended. Oh dear.
Boom, boom.
Right, Richard, what are you thinking? Heart, head stuff.
Yes. Look, I touched on some of the things that Paul's already said. Look, I think we're a lot less naive than when we went in with Ange. And as much as I loved Ange Ball, we were defensively horribly set up to play decent teams, and Real Madrid well and truly picked us off in that regard. So I think we will be more compact than we've been in the league in Scotland. I think that we will still attempt to press pretty high. I saw a couple of comments there about Rio. I think Rio will probably start. If I wanted to pick heart and head, I've just been at Celtic Park too many times in the first 15 minutes of a European game, and I thought, and as long as we don't make any silly mistakes, I think we've got a chance of getting out of there with a draw. But my head says 2-1 Dortmund.
I was talking to my dad about it last week, and I thought, I'm with you, Richard. That first 15, 20 minutes, we really need to not shoot ourselves in the foot. So like a daft red card or a mistake or something just that really just deflates you and takes confidence out your stride sort of thing. If we can get past that first 20 minutes, it's nothing each, or even better, we go a goal up. I think that'd be fantastic. I've got a feeling that if we can get away with like a 2 each draw, I'd be amazing. With 2-1 being better, but I think a draw is definitely possible. I think the difference with Rodgers versus Ange Ball is just we're a little bit more selective in when we pull the trigger and try and attack. Whereas with Ange Ball, it was just this relentless attack, and higher XG, but like you say, Richard, it left gaping holes in your back line that better teams did find ways to exploit. And I think Ange is starting to see that in with Tottenham now, and obviously managed to beat Man United on the weekend, but that's more he'd probably do with Man United than Tottenham. But just the fact that with Brendan Rodgers, it seems to a lot more control, and it's a bit control with flair. And it was last season, it was control with no flair, and then it's finally the flair started to kick in, and it's become an exciting brand of football. Like, there's aspects to it which are Ange-like, but just not that helter-skelter sort of like, it's just a little bit more controlled. And in fairness, Rodgers now has the players in midfield who can control tempo and can pick up the ball and win the ball back without giving away a foul. And I go back to the Bratislava game, AJ, there was a time when he gets fouled, and rather than trying to play on, he just drops and gets the free kick. And it's like, last season we wouldn't have done that, or the season before we wouldn't have done that. So the naivety in the team is starting to go away. These are players that have played Champions League football. This will be the third season playing Champions League football, so they're getting more experienced. They're getting to understand what's involved and what's required. So, a marquee result, and I'd say 2 each in Dortmund would be a marquee result, isn't it the question? And that's my heart and my head.
I think if we can definitely get a Dortmund. That's the thing I would say. We can definitely get them. We were 2-0 down on Friday night. Yeah, they came back and won 4-2. That's a team in the bottom 3 or 4 of the Bundesliga and taking a 2-goal lead against them. They got gobbed by Stuttgart following the last round of Champions League games. They got beat 5-1. Now, Stuttgart are a good side. I think they came second last season. And they'll be in and around the mix this year. But that tells me, without watching a lot of them, that tells me that they're conceding goals. So seven goals domestically in the last 2 matches. And I think we've got the pace and the ability to hurt them. if you look at how, I know it's only pre-season, but if you look at those games against City and Chelsea, and Rodgers said that's how he wants us to play in the Champions League, is they came on to us and left acres of space in behind, and guys like Kuhn, Maeda, Kyogo can absolutely exploit that space. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see us do them some damage, but whether we can keep the door closed enough at the back is the other reason, which is why everybody on here, including ourselves, are predicting high scoring games, because we've definitely got goals in our locker, but I'm not convinced that the level will be going in that where we've got enough to keep a clean sheet. Schmeichel will probably need to be busier than he's been all season. So, and he'll, his distribution's been great, and the little bit he's had to do has been great, but he will be under the cosh, no doubt, for a good chunk of this match. So let's hope his shot stopping and box domination is as good as everything else in his game we've seen so far.
Hours up, guys. So let's do some recommendations. Richard, anything you've watched in your travels, like for past the time on the plane, or anything you?
At risk of saying something that's been said before, and I'm sure, Paul, you will have definitely said this, but I bought a ticket for Bombay Bicycle Club before I got on the plane to go to Tasmania, and I listened to their new album. So you haven't listened to Bombay Bicycle Club's new album? Fantastic, old school indie, been around for a while now. But it's a really nice slice of new indie music. So yeah, really enjoyed that.
I didn't get a ticket because it's, I think, the first or second night that my brother and sister-in-law and nephew arrive in Perth. So I think it would be pretty poor form to go out to a gig and leave them on the first or second night that they're here in the country.
They're probably jet lagged anyway.
So, well, we did go, like, do you think we can get away with this? But I sort of went, no, that's bad form. So yeah, I haven't got a ticket. And to be honest, I wasn't aware there was a new album out, so I'll have to check that out. Are you happy for me to roll in?
Go, Paul.
Yeah, well, I was just sort of having a wry smile to myself when Richard was describing Bombay Bicycle Club as a bit old school indie. So if you think Bombay Bicycle Club is old school indie, you're in for a treat when I tell you that my album of the week is the 30th anniversary album by Shed 7.
Oh,
I'm on the shit.
They've been around for 30 years.
30
oh my
years.
God, I feel old.
30 years, 1994.
Yeah. Amazing
debut. And yeah, so for the 30th anniversary or the 30th birthday, they've produced an album called Liquid Gold. It's got one new song and a bunch of the older tracks, mix of the older tracks and the most recent album from 2 or 3 years ago. And they've done what a lot of middle-aged bands have got around to doing, which is sort of re-recording with an orchestra. But it's a bit more than that. They've definitely got orchestration, but they recorded the album live. They've some great reworking of some classic tunes, and they haven't really lost the rock ethos either. So yeah, if you're a Sheds fan, check out Liquid Gold. It came out last week. Some good versions of some good versions of the original tracks and one new track as well. I absolutely love the Sheds, one of the best singles bands of the 90s.
Thank you, Paul. A few recommendations in the comments. Slow Horses. Yes, I still haven't started watching that yet, so I'm trying to get my wife on board. I know.
We're into season 4. We're into season 4.
Yeah.
But you can enjoy watching.
Absolutely brilliant.
End-to-end brilliant. Yeah.
I'm halfway through, or started season 3 of Succession. So that was the show that I picked up when I was on holiday. So I managed to smash like a whole season while I was away. It's brilliant. I'm really, really enjoying it.
Yeah, it's class.
Really so I'm having a really good time with that at the moment. I'm sure you've all watched that. Strange Love the Doctor, Megapolis, watch it with a smoke or a beer, very funny. I don't think the intention was it was supposed to be very funny though. It was supposed to be a drama, but Francis Ford Coppola is set to lose his entire fortune funding that one. That's at the movies at the moment. And then somebody just saying here the Vince McMahon documentary, because I'm sad. Well, apparently, yeah, he's a bit of a divisive character, so definitely something for everybody this week. Also watched No Time to Die, which was the last Bond movie with Daniel Craig, because I watched it a couple of years ago during COVID, and I was a bit like, I don't really like that, but I watched it again, and actually I enjoyed it more on a rewatch. So obviously I don't want to spoil the ending for anybody, but Bond got a bit woke, but yeah, like I said, it's definitely not a bad way to seal off the franchise, and we're still no closer to knowing who the next James Bond's going to be. So anyway, I digress. Anyway, we're going to be from Germany with love during the week, and then we'll be back next weekend. Who have we got on the weekend? I didn't look that far ahead.
We've got Ross County away, I think.
Ross County away.
Let me just double check that. I'm pretty sure we've got away games after nearly every Champions League game.
We do.
Yeah, so we got the Sunday midday kickoff. So it's a nice, pleasant time for us here in Western Australia.
Can't stuff that one up.
Yeah, so that'll be a 7 p.m. kickoff for us. So that'll be very pleasant.
Set your sundial.
Set your sundial for 7 p.m. Sunday.
I need to set Monty for a meow. Guys, been fantastic catching up. We just see Richards. Paul, thank you as always. Guys, again, if you're still on now, please like the episode, and I say get amongst it. Follow us on the socials above. And for me and Monty, Paul and Richard, all that's left to say is hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
Auf Wiedersehen.